To imply that Washington, D.C. has no representation is absolutely false.
One of my House Republican colleagues said that D.C. shouldn't be a state because the district doesn't have a landfill. With all the racist trash my colleagues have brought to this debate, I can see why they're worried about having a place to put it.
This is not about a balance of power. This is about more power.
There is a basic constitutional unfairness when you deny people the right to vote.
Here we are today, pure power grab to give 2 Democrat senators to District of Columbia.
When my friends across the aisle complained that this bill would lead to the election of 2 additional Democratic senators, so what?
Well, did you hear some of those words on the House floor? Democrats passed legislation to make Washington, D.C. our 51st state. But not one Republican voted for the bill, which faces an uphill battle in the Senate now. GOP lawmakers call it the left's latest power grab, saying Democrats want to expand their ranks by adding 2 senators from what would surely be a safely liberal state. Texas Senator Ted Cruz joins me now. Senator, I have to start with some of the incendiary comments that were made there. I mean, racist trash. Where are we going? What does that have to do with the argument?
Well, unfortunately, that is now the go-to attack for Democrats, that they excuse anyone who disagrees with them on any issue of being a racist. And they use language that just is incendiary, it's inflammatory, and they're deliberately playing on racial divisions in our country. They do it on issue after issue after issue. It's their, you know, people talk about playing the race card. It's the only card they have in their deck. And so that's their standard attack. And D.C. statehood, their push here, is part of a broader effort. We have Democratic control of the White Houses and both houses of Congress, and their number one priority, it's not COVID, it's not vaccinations, it's not reopening jobs, it's not getting kids back in school, it's not doing anything substantive. Their number one priority is they want to stay in power forever. So you look at what they're pushing. They're pushing D.C. statehood. Why? Because they want 2 new Democratic senators. They're pushing H.R. 1, what many are calling the Corrupt Politicians Act, because they want to federalize elections. They want to register millions of illegal aliens and felons to vote and keep Democrats in power for the next 100 years. And they want to pack the U.S. Supreme Court and add 4 new left-wing justices because they want to change the rules and maintain power. That's their priority, and it's not what they should be doing.
You know, in case the public did not know or did not recognize with the mask on, Representative Mondrian Jones is also the person who was there for the rollout of packing the court outside the Supreme Court about a week or so ago. Those remarks are getting a lot of heat today. And so I'm curious, when it makes its way to the Senate, what really happens in terms of the rhetoric here?
Well, in terms of the substance, the chances of D.C. statehood or packing the court passing into law are 0 if, and this is a big if the Senate filibuster rules remain the case. If it is the case that it takes 60 votes to move forward, which has been the case in the Senate for a long, long time, then both of those are dead on arrival. The Democrats know that. That's why they want to change, blow up the Senate rules, end the filibuster in order to change the fundamental election rules. And so it all comes down to really Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, 2 Democrats, the lone 2 Democrats who have said they wouldn't end the filibuster. If they end the filibuster, they will make D.C. a state. If they end the filibuster, they will pack the Supreme Court. This is all about power, and that's why there's so much pressure on those 2 Democratic senators.
Got it. And I had started this with, it's a 2-pronged power grab. You've got the D.C. statehood and the filibuster. There could be more. We'll cover it when it happens. Meanwhile, Twitter won't say whether the controversial post by superstar in the NBA LeBron James violated its policies. In the tweet he later deleted, LeBron James posted a photograph, the only one we'd seen, of the police officer at the scene of Ma'Khia Bryant's shooting, who shot her, with the caption, "You're next," #accountability. In a statement, Twitter says, our teams do not evaluate deleted tweets as long as they are no longer on service, rendering it impossible. Full disclosure, saw it real time, got it on my phone. Like, you know that tweet is everywhere. You can Google it. What are they talking about? Well,
let me start actually by commending LeBron James for deleting the tweet. He shouldn't have sent it. I think it was grossly irresponsible to send it, but I'm glad he did delete it because, look, you opened this segment by talking about the racial divisions in our country. They're real, they're raw, and there's hundreds of years of history behind those tensions. And when you have an officer-involved shooting, I think everyone has an obligation to tamp down the rhetoric, to not just immediately throw sticks of dynamite into the burning flame. In the instance in Ohio on which LeBron James was commenting, we've now seen the officer body cam where the woman who was shot was wielding a knife, was obviously violent, was threatening the life of another young lady. And the officer in that instance may well have saved that other young lady's life, stopped her from being stabbed. Now, we don't know. There needs to be an investigation. Anytime there is an officer-involved shooting, there is an investigation, and that's right. But LeBron James has something like 50 million followers on Twitter. When he targets this police officer, you know, some might read that tweet as an invitation for violence against that officer. Everyone reads that tweet as an invitation for this officer to be demonized. And that's the wrong approach. It's the approach the left takes systematically. Whenever anything happens, the police officer is always in the wrong. And the vast majority of law enforcement officers are good, honorable. They're risking their lives to keep us safe. Are there bad apples? Sure. And the Chauvin verdict this week, that verdict was the system working, was a jury of his peers convicting him for violating the law, because what happened to George Floyd was horrific and wrong, and the system worked. But what LeBron James was doing was not looking to the facts or the system, but was instead unfairly targeting one individual officer for what may well have been saving the life of somebody else.
I'll see if lawmakers on the Hill are going to relook at that Section 230 that protects some of these tech giants on social media. It didn't go anywhere last time.
And Twitter is utterly arbitrary in how it handles this. Yeah, no, Twitter and big tech, they're utterly arbitrary in how they handle this. And that's really the whole point of it is they have the power. They're the black box. I mean, you remember right before the election, they took down the Twitter feed of the New York Post, the newspaper with the fourth largest distribution in America. Why? Because they ran an article about Hunter Biden's laptop that was true, that we now know it was a true and accurate article, and yet Twitter says we have the power to shut down the press if we don't like what you're saying. It's completely unchecked power, and it's the biggest threat we have to free speech and democracy in this country.
All right. Senator Ted Cruz, great to have you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Harris.